You need to leave. You're making this whole room look cheap.
Wait, are you lost? Because nothing about you says you belong in a place like this. Is this someone's idea of a prank? Because whoever sent you here cannot be serious. No offense intended, but you're making this whole room look bad. You need to go. The girl laughed right in his face, right there in front of everybody. 5 minutes later, she found out who his father was. The venue alone ran $40,000 for a single evening. That number told you everything you needed to know about the kind of people gathered inside. Crystal chandeliers hung so heavy they seemed to strain against the ceiling. Floral arrangements that cost more than what most working families pay in rent. Photographers moved through the crowd like silent hunters, capturing designer labels, gleaming timepieces, and the kind of practiced smiles that only come with generational wealth. Outside, a young valet named Marcus sprinted between luxury SUVs and high-end sedans like the parking lot was a professional track meet. Tonight was the wedding of Richard Ashford's daughter. Old money shaking hands with new money. Business deals sealed behind champagne flutes. Connections locked in with firm handshakes while a DJ played something polished and understated in the background. Everyone inside that ballroom wore their wealth like a second skin, a kind of armor that announced itself without a single word. Almost everyone. The security guard at the front entrance had been working private events like this for over a decade. He knew the type. He knew who fit and who was testing the door. So when the young man walked up at around 8:45, the guard's instinct fired before his brain fully caught up. Plain white t-shirt. Simple dark jeans. Worn-out sneakers that had clearly logged a few hundred miles. No watch, no chain, no cufflinks. Just a small drawstring bag over one shoulder, the kind you take to a gym, not a $40,000 ballroom. The guard stepped subtly into his path without making a scene. "Who are you here for?" The young man looked at him. No nervousness. No apology. Just quiet and steady. Ashford wedding. The guard stared. The young man stared back. There were 200 guests flowing through the entrance and no time for a full interrogation. The guard stepped aside and let him through, already rehearsing in his mind how he would explain it to the event coordinator if anything went sideways. The young man walked in. His name was Eli Carter. And the moment he stepped across that threshold, the room took notice. Not kindly. People did not stop their conversations for him. They lowered them. The way people do when they want you to feel disgust but want plausible deniability. Is he with the catering staff? Did someone bring him as a joke? He came through the main entrance. No, someone check if he has a badge. Somebody needs to say something. Eli heard pieces of it. He always did. He walked to the far end of the room near a wide window that looked out over the city at night, and he stood there alone. Back straight. Expression easy. He was not performing composure. He simply had it. That stillness, that complete lack of apology for existing in that space, made people around him more unsettled than any dramatic entrance ever could have. Sienna Ashford noticed him from across the ballroom. She was the bride's younger sister, and she was striking in a way she was fully aware of and had long ago decided to use as a tool. A deep burgundy dress cut to perfection, hair styled with the kind of effortlessness that takes actual effort, nails and heels and clutch all coordinated like a mood board brought to life. She had been mid-laugh with two of her friends when she caught sight of Eli standing by the window, and she stopped talking completely. "Who is that?" she said. Not as a question. More like an announcement. Her friend Jasmine squinted across the room. "He came through the front. I saw him walk in." Sienna's eyebrow arched upward. The expression that settled on her face was not quite hostility. It was something colder. Amusement. She handed Jasmine her champagne glass and began walking. Eli watched her approach. He did not move. She stopped 2 feet in front of him with the kind of posture that says she was comfortable owning whatever floor she stood on, which tonight her family had technically rented. "Hey." Her voice was pleasant the way a polite ultimatum can be pleasant. "Can I ask what you're doing standing over here by yourself?" "Attending the wedding," Eli said. Sienna tilted her head. "Attending?" "Yeah." She let her eyes travel from his shoes up to his shirt and back again slowly enough to make the assessment obvious. "Okay, I'm not trying to be harsh about this," she said, which was already the harshest possible way to begin a sentence. "But this is a private event, and I'm going to need you to show me an invitation, because I have genuinely never seen you before in my life." "I don't have a printed invite," Eli said. "I was contacted directly." Sienna let out a short laugh, the kind that escapes before you can catch it. She glanced back at Jasmine and her other friend Tara, who had drifted closer to watch. "He was contacted directly," she repeated, dropping her voice just low enough to make the words a shared joke. Tara covered her mouth. Jasmine shook her head slowly with the expression of someone watching something unfold that they cannot look away from. Eli said nothing. "Look," Sienna said, turning back, softer this time, as if she were granting him a favor. "This is an Ashford family event. Do you understand what that means? Do you know whose wedding this actually is?" "Richard Ashford's daughter," Eli said. "Priya. She's marrying Daniel Webb. They met during graduate school. He proposed during a trip abroad." The smile on Sienna's face faltered for just a fraction of a second. "You could have read all of that online," she said. "I didn't." "Then who exactly invited you?" Eli held her gaze for a moment. "Daniel." The smile returned, wider now and more pointed. "Okay. I am going to call Daniel over here right now and we are going to sort this out, because I genuinely believe you walked into the wrong venue or possibly the wrong event entirely." She pulled out her phone. Eli watched her and waited. Daniel Webb was 28 years old, broad-shouldered, easy-looking in the way of someone who had grown up with access to good healthcare and personal trainers. He was taking photographs with Priya's grandmother when his phone buzzed. He read the message. "Read it again." Smiled to himself. He handed the grandmother his glass and cut straight across the ballroom. Eli had turned back toward the window when he heard the footsteps. He turned around. Daniel was already crossing the last few feet between them with both arms open. He grabbed Eli by the shoulders and pulled him into a hug that went on long enough for everyone nearby to register what they were seeing. "I have been looking everywhere in this place for you, man. Why didn't you text me when you got here?" Eli said, "I didn't want to interrupt your night." Daniel pulled back and looked at him. "Are you serious right now? You flew all the way from Seattle and you've been standing here alone by the window the whole time. Come on." The quiet that spread through the surrounding crowd was like a ripple. Sienna had not moved from where she stood. Her phone was still in her hand. The message she had sent to Daniel was already answered by his absence from the spot where he had been standing. Daniel noticed her. He noticed the look on her face. "Did something happen over here?" he asked. "No," Eli said immediately. "No," Sienna echoed half a beat behind him. Daniel looked between them. He was not slow. But tonight was not the night for it. "Come meet Priya's dad," he said to Eli. "He's been asking about you all night." They walked away together. The crowd shifted slightly to let them pass without meaning to. Sienna stood where she was. Jasmine moved up beside her. "Do you know who that actually is?" Sienna said, "No. I just asked one of the event coordinators," Jasmine said. She paused. "Eli Carter. As in Carter Enterprises Carter." Something dropped in Sienna's chest. "Say that again." "His father is Raymond Carter." "The Raymond Carter." Sienna said nothing. She knew that name. Every single person in that room knew that name. Raymond Carter did not simply run a company. He ran entire industries. Real estate development, technology infrastructure, private equity, media holdings. Multiple years on the Forbes list. The kind of wealth that never announced itself because it had absolutely no need to. His son, Sienna whispered. His only son, Jasmine said. It took less than 20 minutes for the energy inside that ballroom to shift completely. Word moved the way it always does at events like this one. Fast, in whispers wearing the costume of concern. Did you hear about the kid in the plain white shirt? That's Raymond Carter's boy. She said it right to his face. She had no idea. By the time Raymond Carter himself came through the front entrance at around 9:15, the room had already begun rearranging itself around that information. He arrived without fanfare. That was the thing people said afterward if they had never encountered him before. You anticipated someone whose appearance reflected his net worth. What you got was a man in a clean charcoal blazer, silver streaking through his hair, quiet eyes, and a kind of settled stillness that made every room feel calmer the moment he entered it. Richard Ashford met him at the door and held the handshake for a long moment. Raymond scanned the room. His eyes found Eli in under 10 seconds. He moved toward his son without stopping to work the crowd, without accepting the champagne someone extended in his direction, without slowing down for anyone. He placed his hand on the back of Eli's neck the way fathers do when words fall short. You should have let me know you were already here, he said. I was fine, Eli said. I know you were. Richard Ashford stood nearby watching this exchange. He looked at Eli with different eyes now. The eyes of a man quietly correcting a miscalculation he had made without realizing it. Sienna had been watching from across the room. She watched Raymond Carter walk directly to the young man she had laughed at not 30 minutes earlier. She watched the way Raymond's hand rested on his son's shoulder. She watched the entire room tilt slightly in their direction, like a magnetic field had shifted. She understood now what she had not understood before. But more than that, she understood what she had done. She had drunk 2 glasses of champagne and barely touched either one. The burgundy dress felt too bright. The room felt too loud. She found a quieter corner near the back of the hall and stood there alone. Jasmine tried to follow her. Sienna waved her off. She needed a minute. The thing about Sienna Ashford was that cruelty was not actually in her nature. She was thoughtful when she made the effort. She read widely. She gave her time every month to a youth organization in the city. She cared about things that were worth caring about. But she had grown up in rooms like this one, and in rooms like this one, you absorbed certain rules without anyone stating them plainly. What you wore communicated who you were. What you carried told people where you stood. That was not vanity. That was just the language of the room. Except it was not. She had always known it was not. She had simply forgotten herself tonight. Standing in that corner, she made a decision. It arrived not like a light switching on but like something heavy finally landing. Sudden. Irreversible. She was going to walk over there and say it out loud. Not because it would undo anything. It would not. Some moments do not get repaired. They only get survived. But because she was not the kind of woman who walked away from the things she had broken. Or at least she did not want to be. Eli was standing with Daniel and 2 of Richard Ashford's business associates when he saw her walking toward him. He recognized the shift in her immediately. The posture was different. Shoulders lower. No champagne glass. No friends flanking her like a security detail. Daniel saw her too. He went quiet. She stopped in front of Eli. Can I have 2 minutes, she said. To Eli only, not to the group. Daniel made a small gesture to the others. They drifted away. He followed. And then it was just the 2 of them, standing at the edge of the dance floor while the rest of the evening moved around them. Sienna looked at him. He waited. "I owe you an apology," she said. Her voice was steady, but the steadiness cost her something real. "Not a small one. I spoke to you like you didn't belong here. I made assumptions about you based on what you were wearing, and I said it out loud in front of people, and I made sure you knew I was doing it. That was unkind. It was wrong. I'm sorry." Eli did not react right away. She held his gaze because she owed him at least that much. Looking away would have been the easier thing. "I'm not asking you to tell me it's fine," she said. "It isn't fine. I just needed to say it." The music played soft and low. A photographer drifted past without stopping. Eli was quiet long enough that the silence became uncomfortable. Then he said, "Do you actually mean that, or are you apologizing because you just found out who my father is?" Sienna felt that land exactly where he had aimed it. She did not rush to answer. She actually thought about it. Sat with it honestly. "Both," she said finally. "And I know that is not a good answer. But it is the true one." Something shifted in his expression. "Okay," he said. "Okay. I believe you." A pause. "And yeah. I forgive you." Sienna exhaled without realizing she had been holding her breath. "Why?" she asked. "Because staying angry about it doesn't serve any purpose," Eli said. "And because you came over here when you didn't have to. You could have just avoided me for the rest of the night and gone home and never thought about it again." "That's not who I want to be," she said. "Me neither," he said. A pause opened between them. Not an empty one. Full of something that had not existed 30 minutes before. "Your father," she said quietly. "I've followed some of his interviews over the years. He seems like the genuine article." "He is," Eli said. "He's also the reason I showed up tonight looking like this." Sienna frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Eli glanced down at his shirt. "He made me do it. Every year, at least once, he sends me somewhere I'm supposed to be, dressed in clothes that give people nothing to work with. No brand, no signal, nothing to hide behind." He looked back at her. "He calls it the real test." "Of what?" "Of the room." Sienna stood with that for a moment. Then she asked, "What did the room do?" Eli looked at her steadily. "You were there." She thought about that for a long time after. Not just that night, but weeks later. Driving somewhere. Making coffee. Sitting through a meeting where someone talked too long about something that did not matter. You were there. Raymond Carter found his son near the end of the evening when the crowd had thinned and the younger guests had drifted toward the bar. "How was it?" he asked. Eli considered it. "Different this year." "Different how?" "Someone actually came back and apologized." A pause. "Genuinely, I think." Raymond looked at his son. "You believe her?" "Yeah. I do." Raymond was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "What did you do?" "Forgave her," Eli said. "And told her why." Raymond nodded slowly. He put his hand on Eli's shoulder, the same way he had at the beginning of the evening, and held it there for a moment. "Good," he said. That was all. But it was enough. The last thing Sienna saw before she left the venue was Eli standing beside his father by the window, looking out over the city lights below. Two men. Same posture. Same quiet. As though stillness were something a person could pass down. She got into the car and the driver pulled away from the curb and the building grew smaller in the rear window. She thought about the room. About how it had been organized entirely around what people could see and nothing at all about what they could not. About what it actually costs to look at a person. A real look. An honest one. 3 weeks later, Sienna was back at the youth center in the city where she volunteered every month. A 14-year-old came in late wearing an oversized hoodie and headphones around his neck. He walked to the back of the room and sat down without making eye contact with anyone. A few of the other volunteers exchanged quiet glances. Sienna pulled a chair over and sat down beside him. "What's your name?" He looked at her sideways, cautious, like he was waiting for the part where the other shoe dropped. "Devin," he said. "You doing okay, Devin?" "Yeah. I'm good." She did not push. She just stayed there. After about 10 minutes, he started talking. She never told anyone about what happened that night at the wedding. She did not post about it. Did not shape it into a personal growth story for anyone else's benefit. She just carried it quietly. Some lessons do not need a stage. The ones that actually change you usually do not. The most expensive thing in any room is never the chandelier. It is knowing who to truly look at, and understanding why you almost did not.